Today, I wanted to talk about a misconception that's really common on the spiritual path and on the healing path. So, that misconception is spiritually that one day we will reach enlightenment, uh, nirvana, some sort of exalted state or ascended state. And with just regular healing, that might look like we feel calm all the time, that life is good all the time and sort of going our way, and that all we see around us, all we experience is abundance in every form all the time. And the problem with this is that if our lives, if our inner world, our emotions, our thoughts, and our external lives don't match those perfected states, then we beat up on ourselves. And I've seen this in my clients and students for the last couple of decades, and I've experienced it myself. So I think it's a really important thing to talk about because it can be the root of so much self judgment, self punishment, and really just beating up on ourselves and being cruel to ourselves because what's wrong with me that I'm not, quote unquote, there yet, right? I'm working so hard, I'm doing all the things as best I can, and I'm still not there. And so, first, what I want to say is I feel like this is a trap and I'll just say the spiritual healing path, just to keep it general, especially because since I am a spiritual healing teacher, um, we will frequently set out on the healing path with some sort of vision of who we feel like we should be, how we feel like our lives should be. And we're constantly working and striving to get to that point, right? And the trouble is that this kind of striving does not come from the deeper self. It doesn't come from the true self. Instead, it comes from the ego. And the ego is always telling us how we don't measure up. It tells us how we don't measure up, how other people don't measure up, how life doesn't measure up. So even if we'll pretend that we could get to this idealized state of perfection, even if we arrived there somehow, some way, what would happen would be that our ego would then say, okay, now we need to get over there. And there would be another there to get to. So we would never arrive. It's like a constant hamster wheel, right? Once you get there, there's another there. So it's like the carrot sort of that's in front of us that just keep running, keep chasing that, right? Keep chasing that goal. And so we never get there. We never measure up because our expectations are so high that they are essentially unachievable. And I say that because we are humans. And to be human is to be imperfect, period. None of us are perfect. Perfection is a state that is not attainable. It is not real. It is not something that even exists in the entire universe. So it's not going to start with you or me. And so, again, obviously, this sets us up for all kinds of things. Now, I do want to side note that in terms of conversation like the law of attraction, which is super popular, I think it's useful when used carefully. You know, and the law of attraction is like, oh, you manifest your life, you manifest everything in your life through your thoughts and your emotions, right? And so when we are working with that kind of thinking, right, I'm trying to create this intention for myself and I'm aligning my thoughts and I'm aligning my emotions and I'm aligning my actions. Why am I not there yet? That further sets us up for more self judgment and more like, what is wrong with me? I can't do it. I'm messed up. And that sets us up for never winning, right? There's no win because we're not reaching the ultimate goal. And we're just, it's like we have a measuring stick that is completely broken, essentially, right? Because we can't win. So, better to have intentions that are achievable. And what I'm here to tell you, and this is from my life experience, some of it really hard, living in the trenches experience, and that of my clients also. So I've learned personally and I've learned through my work with other people, is that eventually we hit a wall with that way of thinking, right? Obviously, it's like, I'm not there. What's wrong with me, right? And eventually that creates so much internal pressure that we just collapse somehow or get sick or have this sort of spiritual dark night of the soul where we've totally lost hope or faith. And this did happen to me a few years ago. And it's taken me a while, and this was just a piece of what happened to me, but it's taken me a while to really understand the mechanics of it. And that this was a huge part. So it was like, these ideas eventually get blown out of the water, right? Or our ideas of ourselves and who we need to be, rather. And so I am a huge proponent of a grounded way of spiritual practice, a grounded path of healing. And that way we have a connection to the mystical, because I feel like it's very important, to the mystical, to the spiritual, to something bigger than us, and to possibility, right? Of growing as humans to whatever our personal potential is, right? And really specifically to authentic alignment with our soul and our highest expression in this lifetime. And at the same time, keeping our feet firmly planted on planet Earth, on the ground, rooted to the earth, rooted to some level of pragmatism and logic and science. It is really important. So we bridge science and spirituality, the mystical and the mundane, the ordinary and the non ordinary, for a balanced approach to spiritual healing that works. And in this grounded approach, we see that we are human beings, right? And to be human is to be imperfect. To be human is to be messy, quite honestly. And that means we're not going to have it all figured out, that we're not going to be calm all the time, that we are not going to be happy all the time, that we're not going to be at peace all the time, and that life is going to bring us really painful, really hard things. That's just part of life. And that in terms of our nervous system and emotional regulation, that emotional regulation does not mean calmness, that it means that we have a flexible nervous system that is able to take in the good things and the peace and the happiness and be able to receive good things from life, right? And hold with those things, and that is able to respond in a grounded, resourced way to challenges when they come, right? So it's more about flexibility than calm, right? Or happy all the time. And I think that is the range we want to be in, that space of emotional regulation, that space of the window of tolerance, that space of equanimity in Buddhism, where everything just is as it is and everything is perfect as it is. And perfect doesn't mean good, perfect doesn't mean ideal. Perfect just means that things are always as they are supposed to be, and that I am always who I am supposed to be, as are you, right? And that means that we can hold our light and our shadows equally. And I feel like that is real empowerment, is being able to hold the light and the darkness equally, right? Celebrations and birth, death, and loss, that we can hold all of it. This is the real place that we want to grow into and expand into so that we can hold what life brings us. And this is the place of groundedness. So, just to bring it to the back to the exalted state, or the idealized imagined self, that doesn't exist. Now, that's not to say that we can't have intentions and goals, certainly, right? I think the primary key is to have an intention to align with our personal highest expression and with our authentic self. And to me, authenticity means that, I've got some quirks in my personality. I've got some quirkiness. There are some things that trigger me as a human. I get sad sometimes. I struggle sometimes. I'm happy sometimes, right? And that's okay. I'm can just be human and accept myself in this moment. So that's one more piece of it, is that if we are striving to get to some goal in the future, we are already lost, right? And in Buddhism, that is the definition of samsara, of suffering, is that we are trying to get something else, trying to get somewhere else. And that this moment right now, that this expression of who I am in this moment is somehow not okay, is somehow lacking, is somehow not enough, is the delusion of the ego that has us chasing something that is actually imaginary. It is a made up story of self that does not exist. The only self that exists is the one right here, right now. It's all we can see, it's all we can touch. And that this self is perfect. And if there is such a thing as enlightenment or ascension or any of those things, it is only ever to be found in this present moment, in this body, in this present moment. It is not something that we can find in the future or the past, for that matter, because the future and the past, they essentially don't exist. We can't reach them from here, at least not in the way we're trying to, right? Um, and so it's right here, right now, coming into our bodies, rooting to the earth, taking breaths, feeling our life force moving through us, being able to touch ourselves, another person, the earth. This breath, this moment is the only place that we want to strive to be, is rooted here in the now, in our true power. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments or questions, please do post them below. If you found this helpful, please do pass it on and like the video, and please do subscribe if you have not. We release new videos every week, and I will see you soon.